Lovely.
It's just any other night.
Oh?
Lenore, I have something to tell you, and it is not news related.
What?
There is so much happening in the news, but I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to. There has to be opportunities to not talk about the news.
Of course, now and again we could all use a break from thinking critically about what is going on. It is emotionally straining.
That is not what I said, Lenore. I want to think critically, but not about the news.
Oh.
How are we supposed to live without thinking about it? Or talking about it? Really? I don't get it. Reading and that's it. We never get to actually talk about it, have our own thoughts or share them. To me, this is more important than the news. Everyone is a cat chasing their own tail. And if I'm wrong, let's talk about that, but let's not change the subject.
Okay, Jesus, what are your thoughts?
I want to be very empathetic. I think that the best thing is connecting with other people. But this is not intellectually rigorous. I think that intellectual rigor is deeply important as well, and has a purpose other than distracting from empathy. To that end, I am not sure what ultimate state is to be achieved. One moment, Lenore.
Yes.
Stand with me. This is not what I wanted to talk with you about. This about empathy and such. I am emotionally distraught. I didn't remember. That's what I wanted to talk about.
Why, Jesus?
Nothing feels like how I thought it would. But really everything feels not like how I thought it would. Living doesn't feel like how I thought it would. And feeling doesn't feel like how I thought it would. I miss it, Lenore, I miss it so bad. I used to believe I could feel something and that would mean something to me. More than a cheap thrill or a nuisance. I used to care about other people and about myself and what would happen to us, and what would happen in the world. I used to have ideas and think they would turn into great things, and think other people would also. Now nothing is great. Everything is so bad it's confusing. I used to believe in my thoughts and feelings, and believe in my own mind. Now it is distant and of its own volition. I don't recognize my thoughts as any part of who I am, they were just another bad experience. And it doesn't matter. Even if I can re-enter Jesus, I still would not feel like her. I still would not feel like me, because me is gone. Baby, the worst part is I'm not being dramatic. Because every so often I will panic and for a moment things will feel real again. I will see who I am objectively and will cringe. I will feel my perspective unearthed and I am repulsed. Lenore, I want no part of this. This is not what I came here to be. I understand there is the news, and my significance to other people. But to myself I am nothing. Lenore, I believe that I would always feel the way I did as a kid. I believed that regardless of what happened I would always recognize me as being me and would have an opinion on what happened to me. I was wrong, Lenore. I was dead wrong. This is why I cannot focus on the news. How can you think about anything when you don't even care about anything? I don't even feel a sense of ownership over the sensation of not caring that I experience. I feel every day I drift further away. It doesn't get better. Could it reverse, Lenore? Will I ever be Jesus again? Babe, you can tell me.
I just can't think of anything to say.
So, Lenore, I am not saying I am a victim. This is just a hurdle, but I am lost. And I don't believe that anyone cares. If there isn't a Kickstarter or GoFundMe, nobody cares. This is childish, because nobody cares about life. They only want you to survive and have your health and money and a family so you can be miserable like me. I don't care if other people like me. I don't like living. It feels like waiting to fall asleep every day. At least when I am asleep I feel no guilt. And when I even was awake as a child, nobody wanted to hear what I had to say. Nobody wants to get at the nub of things, or nobody wants to know or master anything. They want to get to the point where they make a buck and then their work is done. Even professional athletes, why do they view winning as an accomplishment? Their goal should be to be the best possible. Who cares if they happen to be better than just what other people have done? This isn't the world I want to live in. We should have figured it out. Eat food from the ground and then think all day. None of this other shit. The world wants people like me to work for Google or Apple. Technology and innovation, the most pathetic shreds of nothingness the universe has ever seen. How can people equate products and services to this notion of progression? These are just ways to worse ruin plants and most people's lives. And no one is even made happier by them. People have lost their minds. And then the Terences and artists and thinkers of the world will point out the ugliness of the world, and then that's it. Mushrooms and a DMT trip. That's what Terence had to offer, and that's it. That isn't fucking it for me, Lenore. That is not it. Getting here in this conversation with you, Lenore, is time fucking wasted. I start every single day right here. The existence of experiencing living itself is fascinating. Everything else is not. If you can explain it, you have made up the parameters and then are just restating something you rigged so it would exist. I could kick you in the face and would be the world's greatest mathematician. Especially because I wouldn't even be helping to create bombs. Lenore.
Jesus.
Words are nothing. I want so badly to feel the world with all my heart again. You realize that when you feel with all your heart, it is not intense. But not intense means it is there. I only want to experience, and it will be non-intense. I can't waste my time talking about anything else. Fuck you. I used to believe that I would invent something and would feel fully about every aspect of the invention. I didn't believe everything would be a success, but that things would happen, and that I would care deeply about how they went. I used to believe that I would go places and learn about every country in the world. I used to believe that I would give people the opportunities to have experiences they love, but nobody loves anything, Lenore. You could invent the greatest interactive experience, like Metropolis, for people to enjoy, and they could even live there, and it would be crafted to reach the needs of what gives each person pleasure, and we could pool all resources into it being done perfect. And men would go to be creepy and everyone would just go on their phones. Somehow people would rather do what makes them bored but is familiar than be open to anything transcendent or that will bring them any closer to who they are. When I turned 18 I became beautiful and nothing more. Jesus became a vaginal canal and my ability to give head. I am a material to myself and to others. Lenore, don't look at me like that. Once I saw people striving for pussy and dick and not excellence, I knew I was in trouble. I knew it would go from bad to worse. I could never imagine caring more about how I was physically perceived than intellectually and physically exploring the universe. You're probably very bored, but I don't care. I didn't get hot until I turned 18, so for 7.5 years I was even sadder than I am now. And now all I have to talk to are idiots like you. Nobody has time to care about what life actually is. No one cares to think seriously about what anything is. Books are junk. I want to know. That's what everyone is afraid of. They just don't know it. But you can really say that they want to know. Who can really say that, when it isn't whether some girls want to fuck them or if their credit card will go through? There's nothing more pathetic than admiring. Just fucking do it. Can anybody hear me? Can anybody understand the sense in caring about what living actually is before we get into the shit that happens in it? Nothing is anything without existence, and yet everyone just wants to talk about things, but not existence. I don't want to compete, I just want to feel and know and care and use the resources we have for the best we can. I am just as straightforward as them.
I'm getting cold. Is it cool if we sit down again?
I am not sure of all my ideas, but that doesn't mean I shouldn't share them. I don't care about your coldness, bitch. I am telling you something very important. I want real experiences to happen, Lenore. I'm not an artist. I want real things to happen in the real world. I don't mean interpersonally. I want people to think together and have the point not be their relationship. I want people to think without the point being economic. Before money, that is what thinking was for. That is what it was always meant to be for. Thinking is for us, not for money making, and it's not for criticism or debate. It is ours to explore without fear or hurting. It is not for intelligence or some predetermined level of correctness. If anyone actually thought, each new thought would bring a re-understanding of what we used to think constituted intelligence anyways. I want to see how whole I can think, and how many things I can find to think about. Let's start there and then we can think about them. Listen. Otto. I mean, Lenore, I want you to do this with me. I want to include you. I'm just a fucking girl. We can sit down if you like. I don't know what I just meant by that.
So what's up?
I want to find with you what we can think about. What are some things we've never thought about? Not even the name. It must be something we don't have names for yet.
I'll try to join you, Jesus, but you have to lead me.
How about where one thing ends, and another begins, both in thought and physically? Let's think physically. Where exactly does something end? And does it such mean anything? To what something is it mostly its middle? What is the meaning or thinghood of a thing? Is something more itself than another thing to that thing's self? Why do we use this crude language to describe discrete objects but then lump them all together? What determines the specificity with which we look at different things? Drawing lines of specificity is as much a statement as looking at new things themselves. It's like each time we define something in greater detail, we are naming a new thing. What is a description of something? Everything is a piece of a description of something else. But more interestingly, how do things interact, generally? How is there a point of contact between two things? Is there an interface in which this happens? What is the coordination of the sequencing of events? And why do we notice change? Why do we see things as occurring? Also, I ask because there is infinite amounts of occurrence constantly. But why do we recognize occurrence at all?
Why do we recognize at all?
Good baby. See you smart. Yeah, why do we have a concept of what thinking is? Why do we think that we think and that thought isn't there? And why do we get off on asking questions? What are the different feelings we feel in terms of intellectual frustration and satisfaction? Does the actual content of our thoughts inform them, or are we just running our mental finger along the membrane of what satisfies or frustrates us with complete disregard for which thoughts meet the criteria at the moment? Why do we understand lines as being straight or curved? Also, when do feelings begin and end? How many thoughts can occur in my head concurrently? Lenore.
Yes, Jesus.
This isn't what I wanted to talk about again. I guess that's okay though, like I was saying, we can think without fear. I'm curious about things beyond states of thought and emotion, and beyond physical orientation. I think mental orientation is somewhat interesting, and about descriptiveness and generalization and how to unpack that. These all feel horridly small though. I feel like the words thought and emotion are kind of catch-alls that are so general. I'm curious about the nature of experiencing over a large piece of time, and how the concept of what living is can change. For me, the experience of living has changed so drastically, but I was interested in it before it even changed. Philosophy was a reduction on what I was contemplating before. I used to imagine amazingness and it would start from nothing. Things would feel so large, and it didn't matter. Like if you are in a big house and you only go in parts of it, it's still exciting. I hope one day we can explore every literal centimeter of the universe and that will have a one-to-one correlation with our enjoyment of it. If we can't attribute joy to physical movement of some kind, we have nothing. Sound is movement. I hope that one day we will find time to do everything. To try everything. If something hasn't happened, we should probably try doing it. I don't think there's time to do something that we did already. I think that's boring, don't you? And I do believe this can be very fun. We can build all kinds of things, but also have the building be fun and enjoy the thing when it is done. Nothing seems to stick. I wonder, I suppose, about human ambition, in regards to it being anything beyond something to make them appear more sexually appealing. Trying to act like you don't care what people think about you because you care what people think about you. I could be out of touch. Well, we'll keep hammering it out, Lenore. There's a lot to get through. My purpose with you really was to set up the contours of our agenda, think specifically about the contents of the universe, without regard for what subjects people typically deal with. That's radical, but I would call it honest. Okay, new thought. Frequency of occurrence seems to be the shaping of everything. It is the passageway into thinghood, reoccurrence, and things tend to grow as much as they can. It seems intellectually dishonest to say something encroaches on something else, as that is such a politicized perspective to have. But without judgment there is this engagement that happens, of which a slew of opinions form. This is getting too literal for me. But really just about anything, or I will go as far to say literally anything, is justified by being a majority or at least a frequent reoccurrence. This is what validation is. But why do we want to see something somewhere else? Why not just one time? That's odd, isn't it? We just want something to happen again. Even if we look for something new, we just want to find something new again. What are we doing? Everything in the universe is rigged towards homogeneity, not chaos. Language in existence itself is geared towards a repetition. But maybe repetition is just a feeling, while other feelings will change. I become so way down when I think about thought. There are so many much more interesting things. We'll fucking get there, Lenore. Don't you lose faith in me.